All right, let's dive right into today's explainer, looking at Lesson 4, Who is the Consent Form For? We're tackling a massive hurdle pretty much every researcher faces right after they've mapped out their protocol, writing the informed consent form. I mean, if you've ever stared at a blank screen, just agonizing over how to translate your highly complex study into something an actual human being would want to read, trust me, you are absolutely not alone. Today, we're completely rethinking the purpose of the document your participants interact with the most.
So, let's kick things off with the core philosophical question of our analysis today. Who is the consent form really for? Your answer to this literally dictates how you write the entire document. Are you writing it for the ethics committee? Are you writing it for your institution's lawyers? Or is it for someone else entirely? Look, after doing all that heavy lifting, mapping out the entire study design, figuring out the logistics, it is incredibly tempting to just view this final form as, well, bureaucratic paperwork. Just another annoying hurdle to jump over to prevent future problems down the line.
And that brings us to what is probably the most common myth in academia. It's this idea of turning the consent form into a thick, heavy legal shield completely filled with impenetrable language, all just to get a signature and stay safe. We often think, hey, if I write it down in grueling detail and they sign it, I'm protected. But we have to ask ourselves, does a defensive shield actually help the person on the other side?
We need to fundamentally pivot our mindset here, taking some wisdom from our guide, RB, who reminds us that this document, it isn't for the institutional review board, and it is certainly not a wall to hide behind. Instead, it's an explanation. It's a promise made directly to your participants.
Now, to actually drop that shield, we have to literally translate our work. And I mean literally. That means swapping out those rigid academic phrases like data collection procedures for clear human phrasing like what participants will do. Because really, if someone can't easily read the document, can we honestly say they've given informed consent, even if they signed on the dotted line?
By shedding a little light on the text here, we realize something absolutely crucial. Easy words are not dumbed-down words. Not at all. They are words that truly respect the intelligence and the judgment of the participant. The consent form needs to be in their language, not yours. Remember, it's a document they have to directly read and evaluate. So execution is everything. You need to clearly outline 6 essential promises so your participants have complete information before they make a choice. You've got to tell them what the study is about, what they'll actually be doing, the potential risks involved, their absolute right to quit midway, how their privacy is protected, and exactly who they can contact if they have questions.
And here's a big one. You cannot hide the discomforts. Participants have the absolute right to weigh the potential benefits against the possible burdens of your study. Being totally upfront about risks doesn't scare away dedicated participants. It actually builds the very foundation of transparency required for ethical research.
Let's redefine the ultimate goal here. True consent isn't just a noun, right? It's not just a piece of paper you file away in a cabinet. It is an active, ongoing process of mutual understanding. The signature itself is essentially meaningless if the participant felt pressured, confused, or rushed during the process.
In fact, a signature means absolutely nothing without 3 vital steps: understanding the study, being able to ask questions, and freely deciding to join. It should be perfectly okay for them to participate and equally okay for them not to. That freedom, that is the beating heart of genuine consent.
And this is where the entire paradigm shifts. That cold defensive shield we talked about, it unfolds into this warm bridge of trust connecting you directly to your participants. But for that bridge to be strong enough to cross, researchers have got to drop the jargon and build it entirely from the participant's side. Now, before you finalize your form and walk across that bridge, we've got a quick 3-step checkpoint. Consider this your final quality control checklist to make absolutely sure you've built a bridge and haven't accidentally erected another wall.
So, ask yourself honestly, could someone totally outside my field understand this? Have I been completely transparent about the time commitment and potential discomfort? And is it undeniably clear that they can stop at any time without penalty? If you can confidently check all 3 of those boxes, you are officially ready to present your study.
Ultimately, seeing the form through the participant's eyes makes the language easier and the promise clear. It just proves that writing well simply means translating your language into theirs. At its core, the consent form is an explanation, which leads to understanding, which allows for a free choice, all cemented by a promise.
As we close out this explainer and look toward our next lesson on why recruitment materials are the face of your study, I want to leave you with this one thought. When someone reads your consent form, do they feel like they're just signing a cold legal contract? Or do they feel like they're being warmly invited to be a true partner in your research?